Adaptations of novels come in infinite forms, with each offering its own perspectives and interpretations. I feel like you don't need me to tell you that. In some alternate reality, Nickel Boys, Colson Whitehead's harrowing story set during the Civil Rights Movement, might have been adapted as a straightforward period drama in the tradition of historical films about the African American experience. However, I'm glad that we live in the universe where we got this ambitious and inventive approach, a film that pushes boundaries in both form and function. In Nickel Boys, we follow the story of Elwood Curtis, a studious and idealistic black teenager inspired by the teachings of Martin Luther King Jr. Living in 1960s Tallahassee, Elwood is poised for greatness, having been selected to attend university classes. But a cruel twist of fate sends him to Nickel Academy, a juvenile reform school rife with abuse, corruption, and systemic racism. Elwood's hopeful worldview clashes with the cynicism of his fellow inmate Turner, and their bond forms the emotional core of this story. The horrors of Nickel Academy unravel through a non-linear narrative, revealing a devastating truth about identity, survival, and sacrifice. One of the film's most striking aspects is its audacious choice to tell the story through alternating first-person perspectives. And this isn't merely a visual gimmick, it's an experimental lens that immerses the audience in the character's subjective realities. Think Hardcore Henry meets art house cinema, a comparison that admittedly doesn't do justice to the film's thoughtfulness. The first-person perspective is bolstered by experimental editing and design. Transitions between perspectives and between time periods are marked by evocative interstitials like footage of the moon landing or home videos or what appears to be archival footage and material from the Jim Crow South. The narrative also skips across time, creating a fragmented, dreamlike experience. And while this structure may confuse some viewers, it's undeniably artful, capturing the feeling of faded memories and fragmented identities. This disjointed approach makes the film easier to respect and maybe a little bit more difficult to actually enjoy. But respect, in art anyway, is often the harder and more enduring achievement. Some of my favorite poetry, whether in written form or through songwriting, are those that linger in the hyper-specifics of life, details so precious that they feel almost exclusive to my own lived experience. These fragments of reality, those fleeting, often unnoticed moments, become anchors in memory, and hearing them or seeing them expressed by someone else grants them this new weight, this new significance. It's as if the writer or the songwriter has reached into the private recesses of my own mind and articulated something that I couldn't quite put into words myself. These specifics might be as mundane as the texture of an orange hanging off of a tree, or as intimate as the precise way that your grandmother scrapes cake frosting off of a knife, or as seemingly trivial as the nervous rhythmic tapping of a boy's finger on the back of a chair in a classroom. And yet these moments, so idiosyncratic in nature, become bridges between the personal and the universal, making the shared experience feel intimate and profound. This film, through its stunning cinematography and camera work, captures that sensation and dials it up to 11. There are sequences where dialogue exchanges might be happening, but since we're viewing it through the perspective of Elwood, we might just be looking at the floor at a pair of shoes, or we're looking at our plate of food in front of us while someone is talking just off camera. It reflects a lot of the way that kind of conversations in life happen. And I felt that every scene was imbued with details that resonate on a subconscious level, evoking emotions that you didn't realize were tied to such ephemeral things. There's an incredible lyric in the song Reconstruction Site by one of my favorite bands of all time, The Weaker Thans. You should definitely go listen to them. And the song is written by their songwriter, John K. Sampson. And I happened to just be listening to music after walking out of Nickel Boys, and this song came on shuffle on Spotify, and the lyric goes, "A little boy under the table with cake in his hair stared at the grown-ups' feet as they danced and swayed." That image, so vivid and so precise, paints an entire story in my mind. It captures the blend of childhood innocence and the alienating observation of adulthood a snapshot of life that feels both deeply personal and universally relatable. And it was a bit serendipitous that I happened to hear this song after watching Nickel Boys, a whole movie that sort of made me feel that exact feeling. The cast in this movie delivers extraordinary performances across the board. Ethan Herisse, I think I'm pronouncing that right, portrays Elwood, whose optimistic idealism anchors this film. It's a little bit unfortunate that much of his performance is kind of happening off-screen since we are experiencing the movie through his eyes. Meanwhile, Brandon Wilson, who plays Turner, his charismatic, sharp-witted, but also pretty cynical friend, shines in his role that's more, I guess, physically present on screen, offering a pretty nuanced portrayal of a boy who's been hardened by the trauma of his life. I also want to give a shout out to Craig Tate, an actor who I've never seen before, but I do hope to see in more things. He delivers a really heartbreaking turn as Cheeky Pete, a grown-up survivor of Nickel Academy. In a standout scene, Pete's monologue at a bar is a masterclass in embodying the lingering effects of his trauma. As Pete embraces Elwood at the end of the scene, the adult Pete melts away and we see the young boy who once was. And it's really just a poignant reminder of how childhood pain never actually truly leaves us. Other notable performances include Hamish Linklater, the menacing Spencer, warden of Nickel Academy, Luke Tenney as Griff, who I had only known from watching Shrinking these past couple years, and he's great as Griff in this movie. Really, really heartbreaking scene with him. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And Aunjanue Ellis-Taylor plays Elwood's grandmother, and she has this tragic depth and just gives an unforgettable performance. I was going to go into a whole section where I talk about the ending of this film, because the ending in particular is pretty effective. I don't think I want to spoil it, though. I got about halfway through reading the book. I wanted to read the whole thing before seeing the movie, but I got about halfway through, and then I ended up buying my ticket to see the movie and didn't get a chance to finish it. And I'm actually glad, because what I ended up seeing on screen was genuinely shocking to me. And it wouldn't have been shocking had I actually finished the novel. I do recommend you read the novel. The novel's beautifully written by Colson Whitehead. Yeah, I was going to go into a whole discussion about the ending of the movie, and I think I'm actually going to abstain from doing that. I think you all might agree that the ending is pretty impactful. So in lieu of talking about the ending, I just want to kind of wrap up my thoughts. Nickel Boys isn't an easy film to watch, but it's one worth celebrating. It's a fragmented mosaic of memories, trauma, and resilience, told in a way that's both inventive and deeply affecting. And while it might turn some viewers off that are seeking straightforward narratives, its bold experimentation offers a sort of singular experience, a dime a dozen in contemporary cinema. And for those willing to engage with its unconventional form, Nickel Boys is a profoundly moving exploration of systemic injustice and the enduring power of human connection. And on that note, as difficult as films like Nickel Boys can be to watch, they are vital to our understanding of humanity. Art has always been one of the most profound tools for reflecting on our past, holding a mirror to the injustices and atrocities that have shaped the world that we live in. Whether it's through literature, cinema, or other forms of storytelling, the act of confronting these truths ensures that the lives lost, the pain endured, and the resilience demonstrated are remembered, not just as historical footnotes, but as urgent reminders of what we have to strive to overcome. Stories like Nickel Boys serve an essential purpose. They document humanity's capacity for cruelty while also shining a light on the resilience and the indomitable spirit of those who suffer through oppression. They remind us of the countless lives taken, marginalized, or irreparably scarred by systems of injustice. By immersing ourselves in these narratives, we not only honor those who lived these experiences, but also challenge ourselves to recognize and dismantle the lingering shadows of these systems in our own time. Because, as they say, to forget is to risk repetition. There's a video I made about the movie Lee, about the war photographer Lee Miller, and I reflected on the necessities for creating media about atrocities like, in that case, the Holocaust or the Vietnam War, or in this case, the mistreatment of African Americans in the Jim Crow South. No matter how painful these stories are, they're critical to preserving the truth of what happened and ensuring that the lessons learned are never lost. Films like Nickel Boys demand emotional labor from their audiences, but that labor is a small price to pay for the opportunity to witness, remember, and reflect. They remind us that history isn't just dates and facts. It's a culmination of human lives, choices, and consequences, and it's our responsibility to carry those memories forward. This act of remembrance, especially through art, is one of the most profoundly human things that we could do. And yeah, I think that's all I'm really going to say about Nickel Boys. It's kind of tough leaving this movie behind and feeling like I only scratched the surface of things that I could talk about. I think I hardly mentioned RaMell Ross's name, the writer and director of this movie and camera operator of this movie. He has such an incredible vision and a unique vision, and I know I mentioned it at the top where there's a million ways you could have told the story, and a book that is written in the third person is then presented from a first person POV, and I mean that's just incredibly unique and an incredibly inventive way of going about it. Add to it these sort of abstract interstitials and flashes of imagery and photographs from the 1960s in the South. What you get is a really sort of effective movie that feels unpredictable at times and immerses you in the first person POV entirely. And yeah, I'm really, really happy with Nickel Boys. I wish I had an opportunity to see it in 2024, back when I was making my end of the year list. I think it falls pretty high up on it. But I want to reiterate something I said before, which is that this is a movie that's easier to respect than it is to enjoy. I can't say I'm itching to watch it again necessarily, in the same way I wasn't really itching to watch a movie like Zone of Interest again. While I deeply, deeply respected it and was deeply affected by both of these films, they are definitely experimental and lean into abstraction and lean into unconventional narrative techniques and formal techniques of storytelling. So that's all something that should be kept in mind before going into this movie, and it should also be admired after walking out of the movie. Yeah, those are going to be my thoughts for Nickel Boys. Let me know what you thought in the comments. If you enjoyed it, if you couldn't stand it, if you got motion sickness from all the POV stuff. I did hear that some people did that. Let me know down in the comments. Feel free to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to be notified when new videos come out on this channel. Also, go ahead and check out my podcast, which I will have links to in the description. You can listen to my podcast. The podcast is not necessarily directly connected to the channel just yet. It's me having conversations with a couple friends of mine, and we wax on and on about different movies that they love and whatnot. But as the channel and the show progress, I'm gonna try to make the two things linked pretty much, but we're getting there. And yeah, I hope to see you all over on the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe. I will see you all next time.